of law enforcement, some highway patrol officers, Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and a total of 9 county sheriff's offices are sending, let's call them troops, right? DeSantis is saying these calls for help were urged by Arizona's governor, Doug Ducey, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Great job, Mr. DeSantis. All right. Here now with a reaction to the governor's move, representing Florida's 17th congressional district. Welcome back to the program, Congressman Greg Steube. Greg, thanks for coming back on. Let's get right after it. Man, you got a heck of a governor down there. I'll tell you, he just keeps stepping up in the right places at the right time to help out.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. And I was actually just at an event of a renaming of a lock and dam in my district, naming it after an FWC officer who was killed and shot in the line of duty. And there was a bunch of FWC officers down there. And I talked to the local sheriff, and the local sheriff is one of those sheriffs that is sending some of his deputies to the border to assist. So, and talking to him, he's like, whatever we can do to stop this lawlessness that is happening on the border. And clearly, the Biden administration and the federal government's not going to stand up and protect our border. So thankfully, we have governors like Governor DeSantis and Abbott and others who are willing to stand up, build the wall, and finish the wall on their own, send officers down there who are willing to assist. And it's great that I've got officers from my district that are going to help out.
You heard me in the lead up. This is what it's going to take. And it's not just on the border crisis. There's so many other things happening this administration is putting into effect by either executive order or ramming through Congress. And it is going to take local leadership in our state houses, these AGs that are stepping up, and brave governors like yours. In addition to the crisis at the border that your governor's helping out with, I saw something else going on in your state I thought was very interesting. Wanted to get your take on this because this was very controversial. I'm sure you recall back in the 80s and 90s, we always had this fight back and forth between left and right, atheists and Christians, whether or not there should be prayer in school. Now, I get separation of church and state. I'm not stupid, but I see that your governor now signing that bill down there that kids can take a moment of silence during the classroom study time to do what they wish with it, which if they'd like to pray, that would be their choice to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great step in the right direction. I think one of the challenges that we have in our country is because God has been taken out of the classroom. When I was in the state legislature a while back, we actually passed a bill that would require the state motto, Florida state motto is "In God We Trust," implanted in all the public school rooms. So at least our motto was in there. But what we've seen is a degradation and taking God out of the classrooms under the auspice and argument of church and state. So now it's nice that actually children who want to pray and people who want to pray before school starts will have that opportunity. I've talked to pastors who've been kicked off school campuses because they've just wanted to go and pray. So they've had to go to the outside of the school property to do that. So anything that we can do to allow Christians or those of faith who want to exercise that faith, albeit in a classroom or on a football field or wherever the case may be, to have an opportunity to do that.
And Greg, let me go one step further. Not only have we taken God out of the classrooms over the last couple of decades, which has been, I think, a detriment to our children, and then eventually, obviously, the whole nation, we've taken God out of almost everything, or at least the radical left has attempted to, which I believe is another detriment to this country, which is why we've seen an increase in crime, an increase in divorce, an increase in domestic abuse towards wives, children, you name it. God has been removed from this country, or as I said, they're attempting to, and that's why this whole thing is flipped upside down. Good is evil. Evil is good right now. Defund police. Criminals get away with stuff. Look at San Francisco. Oh, if you're just shoplifting a little bit and it's under $1,000, no big whoop. And you've got members in your house in Congress on the Dem side saying, well, if they really need it because they're so poor, then going and shoplifting or stealing a sandwich or whatever is okay. It should be okay. It should be based on your economic status. I mean, really? And that goes back to faith and believing in a higher power. That's my personal opinion.
Well, and it's nice that we have a Supreme Court that's actually exercising the First Amendment rights and coming down in judgments on the First Amendment rights for people to express their faith and their values and the things that they think are important, and striking down some of these laws that allow for those organizations that are religious in nature and would do something like allowing children to be adopted in families that they don't believe should be adopted in, homosexual couples and that sort of thing. And the U.S. Supreme Court is finding favor towards religious liberties. And that's what should be happening. And I'm glad to see that at least the U.S. Supreme Court is doing that.
Yeah, that decision coming down just earlier this week. Great transition, Greg, because my next question in line was going to be on COVID. And let's talk about where people put their faith. You know, it seems like people like Mr. Fauci and Mr. Biden want you to put faith in them. They'll call it science, but since science is ever changing as we learn more, I'm sorry, they want us to put faith in them. We've even heard Biden, of course, at his speech back in January when he took office, say that, you know, he believes part of the government is we the people. No, I think folks have a faith in a higher power. And when it comes to COVID, they're looking to God, a lot of people are, to keep them safe. So let's talk about this Fire Fauci Act. You're one of the members of Congress that signed on to that.
Look, I believe that Fauci lied to Senator Rand Paul when he testified before Congress. He was under oath when he did that. We've seen now with all of the emails that have been released through a FOIA request. Thankfully, that's illuminated some light on some of the shenanigans that were going on with Fauci and all of these different investigations as it relates to the amount of money that was going into this research to make super viruses. That's the last thing that tax dollars should be going to in our country. So through these releases of these emails, we've seen that Dr. Fauci has not been honest with the American people. So he absolutely should not be in the position that he's in. We should put somebody there that actually is going to follow the science and follow the law and be truthful with lawmakers when they come in and testify before Congress.
Speaking of being truthful, let's talk masks. Mr. Fauci has flip-flopped back and forth since last year, and you alluded to the emails. One of the emails, one of his virologist friends, I believe, asks about masks, and he says, whatever. They don't work really that well with this anyway because, it's so fine, the particles, what really matters. You don't need them. So something happened in Gainesville, Florida. A group of parents down there in your state decided to take a bunch of the masks to a local lab. And what they found, absolutely disgusting. Staph infection, all kinds of gross stuff on kids' masks. The bacteria, just unreal. And I want to play this clip real quick and then have you just comment on masks, because this comes from our friends across the way in Israel when kids found out that country was doing away with masks for their kids in schools, because we know there's still school districts going to make kids wear those damn masks. So watch this clip of when some little kids were told no more masks.
שמהיום לא צריך מסכות גם בכיתות.
I think we all in this country would react that way too if we had a leader, a commander-in-chief who would come out and say, we're going to follow the science and there's no more mask dates anywhere, ever.
Yeah, right now we have a federal government that's saying their own CDC is saying if you've been vaccinated, you don't have to socially distance, you don't have to wear a mask. Yet Biden's federal mask mandate is still in place. So I live here in Florida, and when I have to go to Washington, the only place I have to put my mask on is in the airport and on the plane, despite the fact that the CDC and the scientists are saying it's not necessary at this point because the amount of people that have been vaccinated, and if you've been vaccinated or had COVID and had a natural reaction to that, you don't need it. So, but we're going to continue to require people to muzzle themselves. And with kids, if you're under the age of 50, you're 99.9% more likely to not die from COVID. Under the age of 22, I believe, it's like basically a statistical anomaly. You're more likely to die of pneumonia or from the common flu than you are of COVID. So why have we been masking up our kids 8 hours a day, all day long in school? It's no surprise that it has all of these bacterias and viruses and all sorts of other horrible things in them because they're wearing them all day long. I'm sure most parents aren't washing those masks every single day.
Yeah.
And if it can't withstand a virus going through it, if it's just a piece of cloth, it's not going to prevent a virus like COVID even coming in and out of that mask. Completely ridiculous. No kids should be wearing masks in schools. I'm glad that Governor DeSantis here in Florida doesn't have a mandate like that. Our private schools haven't required that. And you haven't seen any type of spike in COVID cases because of it.
Exactly. Congressman Greg Steube from the great state of Florida, thank you so much for coming on. Enjoy your weekend, brother. Take care.
Yeah, you